Hi everybody, and just continuing with our initiative, our Aftermarket. Today we're delighted to have Andy Turbefield from Halfords with us, and we're going to talk to Andy about his career journey throughout the aftermarket, and probably just gain a little bit more of an insight into what it's like in the sort of training and the development side of and quality side of the industry. So without further ado, Andy, welcome.
Good to be here, thank you.
Excellent. And so I guess the first question, we've conducted several of these interviews now, and we're trying to pick up on individual stories. So I think it'd be good, really, just sort of starting off with your own story, really. So where did it all start for you, and how did you get into our aftermarket?
I'm from a family of car mechanics. My father ran a garage business in a little village not too far away that he took over from his father. So he built the garage back in the turn of the last century, when I suppose car mechanics were basically blacksmiths that needed to turn a hand to this new internal combustion thing.
Yeah.
So, when it first all started, it was a garage that looked after tractors and motorbikes and bicycles and mowers and cars and all manner of things. And my dad took that over and carried on running that business. And as the son, it was always expected that I would probably do the same thing.
Yeah.
So as soon as I was old enough to hold a spanner, I was in the back of the workshop or in the front cleaning mowers and working with motors and all sorts of things under the shadow of my grandfather, who always used to sit on a stool at the back surveying what was going on.
Yeah.
So it stemmed from there. But funnily enough, because I started it so early, I kind of rebelled against it, and I decided I didn't really want to be a car mechanic. And I did all of my education at school to become an architect, believe it or not. Because I was quite good with my hands.
Yeah.
But at some stage I realised that I couldn't deal with 7 years of study. So I went back into automotive and I joined a YTS scheme. Yeah. Remember the YTS scheme?
Oh, indeed, yeah.
So £27.50 a week. Yeah. And I did that to begin with while I was doing my level 3 at college at Evesham. And I went to work for a small Peugeot dealer. And then I went back working for my dad. Until one day my future wife drove into the car park in an old Renault 4. Yeah. And that meant that I needed to make a decision. And a job came up at Halfords as a car mechanic. So I joined Halfords and I've worked my career from that time back in 1993.
Absolutely.
And the business has changed a few times since that time, AA and Nationwide and back to Halfords again. So here I am today as Head of Quality Policy and Standards at Halfords Auto Centres, and I've probably held just about every role that's possible during that time, from regional operational management to audit and compliance to training to where I am today in trying to maintain and make sure we've got the right standards.
It would be great to sort of hear more about that as we go through. But let's just take you back a little bit, because it intrigues me. I mean, obviously, back in the day, I worked on. I'm old enough to remember the YTS, so and did that myself. So, do you think we're sort of missing something now with those type of programs? Where someone comes in and you get your 2-year apprenticeship or 3-year apprenticeships time, to kind of learn your trade, and that's kind of not happening so much these days.
I think there's greater opportunity for young people now to choose a career. Back in my day, I'm not saying this was me, but if you weren't very good at maths and English, then your careers advice was a car mechanic or a builder. That's not true today. Yeah. And I think equally for girls, it was hairdressing or something like that. Yeah. And again, that's not true today, thankfully. Yeah. So I think today we've got a much more diverse opportunity for young people to go into different trades, which in some cases can be incredibly baffling for them, and like, where do I actually go? But at the end of the day, there weren't many programs back then, were there? You'd have the apprenticeship, you'd have the full-time education routes. Yeah. YTS came along as a way of trying to give opportunity again. Yeah. But there weren't many others. So here we are, sort of, whatever it is, 30, 40 years later, and I sort of think, well, what's changed today? Yeah. Where does a young person start when they're looking at their future career, and Are there modern YTS schemes? Well, really, it's still really today a choice of apprenticeship or full-time education or stay at school.
Yeah.
You've got to stay in some form of education now until you're 18.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think, I don't know, maybe it would benefit from something, but I'm not sure many young people would get out of bed for £27.50 today. You know?
Well, it's £35 on the second year, as I remember it. So. But yeah, so I mean, obviously the young generation, you know, it's something I want to talk about a little bit later on. You know, it's been an interesting, you know, your career. You started, you know, sort of head under the bonnet, and you know, and obviously I've seen, you know, you've worked in crash repair as well.
I did, yeah. Short period of time.
As well as working with the trade affiliations too. So how did you sort of engineer your sort of career moves, and, you know, was it all down the sort of training and development route and qualification? How did you get to where you are today?
I think to begin with, yeah, I hold my dad kind of partly responsible, because he taught me this thing about never give up, you know. If you're trying to figure out why something doesn't work, walk away, calm down, go back to it. Usually the answer will come to you. And he was absolutely right. And that's not just, I don't just use that as I did back then fixing cars. I use that today when I'm trying to come up with a new process or whatever, you know. There was a moment in my career when I was moving away from mechanics and into management, where I was lucky that I was interviewed by one of our leaders in our business. And he asked me a question. He said, Andy, how would you motivate a technician if you're going to be a manager? How are you going to keep them motivated? Yeah. And as a mechanic, I'm thinking, my God, you know, here's a question for me. And I gave him a rubbish answer. I said, well, if I've got the tools that I need, if I've got a workshop that's clean and tidy, then I'm motivated to get the job done. And he looked me in the eye and he said, Andy, that's complete rubbish. That's not quite what he said. But he said, that's absolute rubbish. He said, if you want to motivate a technician, you've got to develop them. Yeah. If you develop them, if you give them a goal to aspire to, they'll move mountains for you. And it stuck with me. And it meant that when I did get into management, it meant that I was able to build a team around me, give them tools, give them goals, give them development. And they stuck with me. And even today, I still meet up with colleagues that used to work for me back in the day, and today they're managers or they've got different roles, or and some of them are still mechanics, believe it or not. But I look on those times with great happiness, and to think that you've given something back and people have been able to grow within the automotive sector. But I think all of that has that willingness to want to just be curious, you know, why is it the way that it is, and what can I do to change it? And so as I've progressed through my career, and I now have the pleasure, and I'm very proud to work in the aftermarket in the wider circles, I still use that sort of curiosity and asking the why to try and create a more progressive aftermarket.
Absolutely.
So it's a sum total of the career. Helping me to achieve what I can try to achieve now.
But ultimately, you know, having sort of worked on the spanners and done it from sort of grassroots up, that puts you in an added, you know, sort of beneficial position, that you understand, you know, what their journey, what journey those guys and girls are going through.
It's relevant. Sometimes gets in your way, you know, because sometimes, you know, even today you can be thought upon as being somebody that gets their hands dirty, so therefore, you know, are you really somebody that might be a CEO of a business in the future or something like that, you know? So some of those stigmas still exist, but I don't allow them to get in the way, you know, and there is a little bit of an arrogant so-and-so in me that comes out every now and again when I let him, but no, I very much promote a process of working together to get to where you need to get to.
And, you know, for you personally, I mean, I've asked a lot of people this question, you know, I know, you know, my own answer to this question. What do you find addictive about working within the automotive aftermarket, and what sort of, you know, fires you up? You know, what would you take greatest sort of pleasure out of?
It's variety. No one day is the same. Within the aftermarket, certainly within garages with an aftermarket, but I guess it's the same within the supply chain. You know, the idea of not knowing what you're going to work on every day, it means that you're always having to learn. You're always having to find information. You're always having to find a way around doing something. Nothing's ever presented to you in a book and says follow that. You know, So for me, certainly from a mechanic point of view, it was always about having something new to work on that you'd never seen before.
Yeah.
Whereas other people that I worked with that worked in dealer chains or whatever, always had the same cars,
Yeah.
But as you then move out into the aftermarket, that just gets larger.
Yeah.
Because then you're dealing with different suppliers, different manufacturers of parts, different training providers.
Yeah.
And OEMs.
Yes.
Let's be honest. So to me, to answer your question, it's just this sheer scale of variety of things that you have the opportunity to work in the aftermarket.
I mean, obviously, your own career has gone down the sort of quality and training and development route, which is great because that's a profession of its own, with its own genre. And just to give people that are watching this a bit more of a background, because we're talking about the diversity that we see within the aftermarket. We've talked a lot about technicians and people that are fixing vehicles, but there's a whole sort of supply chain going on out there. Just give us a sort of flavour and a feel of the sort of departments that, let's for example, Halfords have, where they would see and satisfy the needs for careers like, for example, in marketing, communications, IT development. What sort of departments do Halfords sort of work with at the moment, and what do they have going on, just to give people an idea of the type of professions that they can get into?
I mean, Halfords is a monster today compared to what it was when I joined it back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
When you think about the size of the organisation and the departments that are in it in order to ultimately repair a car and give it back to a customer, or carry out an MOT, or fix a bicycle, or sell a battery in a store. It's massive. When you look at the commercial team, they source parts from all over the world, whether that be tyres, whether that be components, whatever. So there's a huge number of deals and people that operate all of that. When you look at the online piece, so much of what we do now comes via online.
Yeah.
The vast majority of our customers that book in our garages do so via online.
Wow.
So the whole piece about ensuring that the marketing side of the business is geared up for that is immense. When you look at employee relations, human resources is what it might once be called, to deal with a workforce of 12, 13,000 people takes a large quantity of people. Recruitment, it is a monster fleet. A good proportion of the work that we do in garages is fleet work.
Yes.
So you've got a whole team of people that are out there maintaining the relationships with our fleet partners. Yeah. So it's a big old beast. And as I say, Halfords today is a group of companies. Yeah. So you've got the garages, you've got the mobile expert that go and do all the things that stores can do. You've got our stores, but you've also got this massive commercial tyre operation now as well. So it is a big old beast and a pleasure to be a part of, I've got to say.
Absolutely. And then when you think about the colossal supply chain that's into the likes of Halfords as well, and the industry supporting all those people that are selling the great and wonderful products that we can fit to our vehicles through you guys, then it gives an idea of the expanse. So we're looking at sort of disciplines like IT, SaaS, Marcom, social media, and these are all the areas that we're actively promoting right now, and we're seeing a big influx of those type of careers. So in terms of sort of training and development, you guys are pretty well organised when it comes to that type of activity. As an industry, do you think we do enough to promote what we're doing for our employees, or could we be doing more? Should we be doing more?
I think we need to shout from the rooftops about how great the aftermarket is. It's such a significant part of UK automotive, such a huge part of gross domestic profit in the UK. I think anything that we can do to make others realise how important the independent automotive aftermarket is, the better. And we do that through a variety of ways. But of course, if you think about where we sit today, when you think about OEM manufacturing in the UK, when you go back 10 years ago, about 20 years ago, we had a British manufacturing of motor vehicles, didn't we? Yeah. That's dwindling. Yeah. And And so we have to be able to deal with that, and who's best placed to deal with it but the aftermarket? But I am absolutely clear that, and this might be a little bit controversial, the future lies with collaboration between the aftermarket and the OEM networks. There's no two ways about it. We have to work together in order to create a more sustainable future for, ultimately, the British driving public.
Yeah.
You know, people want to be able to get their cars serviced and maintained wherever they want to take it.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have to go to here or there because something's locked down or parts are only available over there, you know.
Yeah.
We've created this culture, haven't we, where wherever you want, you can have it.
Yeah.
You know, you can go online, you can go to Amazon, buy something, and it's on your doorstep the following day. This is the culture that we now live in. And so we're never ever going to go back to how it used to be. We have to create an automotive aftermarket that is sustainable for the years ahead.
Absolutely. You know, one of my previous interviewees, you know, sort of suggested, you know, the aftermarket is a little bit like the human body, you know, where you know, it sort of develops at a sort of rate of knots, and now, you know, we're into, you know, diagnostics, you know, heart diagnostics machines that monitor machines, and ultimately, you know, we're kind of there with the automotive aftermarket now, aren't we? You know, it's so fast paced in terms of the speed that we're moving at.
Yeah, and you know, you mentioned diagnostics. You know, you can now diagnose a vehicle that's driving up the road somewhere. In fact, the vehicle can contact you and say, "I've got a problem." You know, it's now, you know, common practice for, you know, you can be driving your car down the road, you might get a puncture, it will tell you on the screen that you've got a puncture, and it will tell you where to go to get it fixed. You know, so in our world, we have, in the aftermarket, we have to adapt to that. You know, the days of plugging in and reading off a load of codes, yes, they're still there for some of the older vehicles, but now it's more about over the air. It's about, you know, this handshake between you, the repairer, the car, and the OEM to enable access to the vehicle, to then be able to do what you need to do. All of that has a great deal of complexity, but that is, it's not so much the future, it's actually here right now, you know. So what excites me about that, you know, people talk about, but internal combustion engines, you know, you're not going to be doing so many oil and filter changes and spark plugs and things like that, and electric cars and not having too much to do on them. But I think you know, you mentioned software as a service, mobility as a service, connected automated vehicles, you know, the software of a defined vehicle. All of these things are the opportunity for the aftermarket as we go into the next decade. And you've either got to be with it, or
not. It's great. So in terms of sort of for the future then, I mean, you know, twofold question really. What, you know, if I can ask, you know, what is the sort of working culture like, you know, within, you know, the Halfords family right now? You know, like you said, there's 14,000 people there. How would you sort of describe, you know, your culture and, you know, when people come and work for you guys?
The first thing I'd say is it's constantly evolving. Because of the size of the group and because of the type of work that we do and the businesses that we have, the way that we operate, it has to evolve because it's a moving platform. But I think, you know, we have our values, and we're very keen to ensure that our colleagues understand what our values are, that, you know, we take pride in our work, we look after our customers. And it shouldn't matter whether you're working in a garage, in a store, on a mobile van, or in commercial tyre. You know that you're part of something that really cares about you, wants to make sure that you've got a great career in front of you. Whether that's with us or not, we just want to make sure that you're set up, because, you know, I've learned over the years that people do leave, they do look for the grass that might be greener, but it's amazing how many come back. You know. And this thing about, you know, if you want people to stay, look after the grass that you've got, you know, I actually, this might be again a bit controversial. I think people do need to go out and see other things, because when they do and they come back with more skill. You know, but it's challenging. You know, but no, we really want to show that we do a colleague engagement survey every year. We've got a number of things that we do to try and make sure our colleagues feel comfortable in their environments. We're not perfect, but we try to do our best to make sure that we value our people.
Absolutely. And sort of for the future then, I mean, what is there anything you can share with us that's happening in the future, you know, that you, or, you know, maybe where you see technology and the type of positions that are going to become available in the future? Where do you kind of, in your opinion, where do you see that moving in the sort of forthcoming years?
So I think certainly when you look at technology, software, when you look at, I mean, AI, I mean, the stuff that is now coming out that's AI generated, you almost have to sort of think twice about what you see.
Yeah.
Is it real, you know?
Yeah.
But what I really like about the AI piece, and certainly from a diagnostic part of the thing, you know, you can teach AI, you know, and you can feed it with information, and then it does its sums and provides back to you information. Yeah. And I think, you know, there's massive opportunity in artificial intelligence within automotive and within the aftermarket. And I think what that does is that creates new opportunities for our sector for people coming in, whether that be people coming in from school or people coming in from other sectors coming into automotive. Because we need those levels of skill, you know. There's things that we're driving around in now as supercomputers on wheels. It's staggering the amount of computing power that these cars and trucks and vans and bikes have now. So it isn't like, there's still the things that go wrong, the old mechanical bits. You still need to be able to use these, you know? But the ability to log into a vehicle, to understand data, to be able to find information and apply it to then be able to provide a diagnostic outcome is the opportunity that presents us in the future.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, we use AI in our business too, you know, every day. And I'm sure it's going to be sort of, you know, everyone somewhere is touching that nowadays. You know, so I dare say that we're going to see that sort of growing, you know, within the aftermarket in the future as well. So, well, thanks for giving us such an insight into, or an insight into life at Halfords. It's an interesting career journey. You know, you've gone from lawnmowers to training and development. You know, so it's quite a sort.
I hated cleaning lawnmowers. That was yeah.
Absolutely, but you know, thanks for joining us and thanks for doing this piece. So hopefully, you know, through the next series of interviews we're doing, you know, we're giving people a genuine insight. We're using real people, real stories, and we're going to be talking more about the opportunities that are going to be prevalent for the aftermarket in the future. So, Andy, thanks very much for your time.
Pleasure. Good to meet you. Thank you.